Hey guys, Tim Dorman here at the Long Haired Gardener, and I am back with another garden tour. So here in Philadelphia, we are having another heat wave where the average temperature of the week is about 90 degrees. So that means I am not even a minute into this video and I'm already hot and sweating. But it also means that my Philly jungle here behind me is loving it. Nothing makes plants grow faster than a lot of heat and a lot of water. And luckily, we have been having a lot of rain. So come along and take a look at my garden. I have a lot of great updates for you this time. And yeah, let's go take a look. Alright, so let's get started. I'm just going to do a little pan here so that you can see how much everything has really grown. Like I mentioned, it has been very warm and we've been getting a lot of rain. So that is basically creating the ideal jungle conditions, which is great for me because that's the look I'm going after here. So I guess we'll get started over here on this side. I think most of the plants I've already have talked about in the past, so we're just going to kind of go through here and just take a look at the progress. So there are the impatiens down there, and the caladium is coming through. So this plant I haven't talked about before. This is a sedum, and it is just now starting to flower. It is a favorite of pollinators, so there will be lots of bees and butterflies on this plant. It is kind of, let's see if I can come down here. It is a succulent plant, so what that means for me is it actually breaks very easily. It kind of has that, I'm trying to come down here, well, I can't find one that I want to break off, but it has that really juicy succulent stem, so they're quite easy to break off. So I would recommend not putting this anywhere where there's a lot of people are going to be brushing into it. Again, the bees also, you don't want it around too many people because of all the bees, but also it's really easy to snap off. Let's see, the licorice plant is doing amazing. Let's spin around here, and the brown-eyed Susans, and I can never remember which is which, so I may have to correct this later. I can never remember if these are brown-eyed Susans or black-eyed Susans. Actually, I think they are black-eyed. The difference being, one is kind of like a wildflower, and it will come back every year through seeds, and one is more perennial, where the plant itself comes back. So I believe this is a black-eyed Susan, and this one comes back from the plant rather than from reseeding itself. So right next door here we have the salvia, and they are doing quite amazing. Very happy with these, and I think I'm already thinking about next year. I think I might get these again. This really has been the best year for me for plants. The only thing that I'm really not pleased with are the snapdragons, which are these plants down here, which I'm actually stepping into the garden, and I'm trying to get close to this elephant ear because I just want you to see. I can't even lean back far enough for you to see how gigantic this is. I will, maybe in the next video, I'll just get out a ruler and measure this. It's absolutely gigantic. We still probably have a good 2 months of the growing season left, and I'm afraid that that's going to get actually too big. Again, probably because of those ideal growing conditions with the extreme heat and all the rain. Alright, coming around here. And I just want to come back down here to the caladium. Something exciting is happening. It is, if you look over here, it has a flower on it, which I think is somewhat rare. There's actually another one right here. So this is what it looks like before it opens. This one opened yesterday, and it looks like it's a one-day type of flower. It's already starting to not look so great. It looks very similar to, if you're familiar with the houseplant, the peace lily. Kind of blooms in a similar way. Alright, we got some more elephant ears over here. These are the hostas. There's another elephant ear back here. I kind of tuck them in between the hostas, and they are emerging and thriving. This is a mojito colocasia, part of the elephant ear family. This is their time to thrive. And back here, this is definitely my most favorite planter. Another colocasia, the teacup variety. And we're gonna come right down here, move another elephant ear, and there is another flower that's gonna open up here on this caladium. Alright. Just stepping over here. This canna did bloom. Kind of missed it a little bit, but I can put a picture up there on the screen for you. So not a whole lot is happening over here at the moment. The lantana, this plant over here, has bloomed, and now it's going to take, a few, maybe like a week or so for it to bloom again. So we're not really in a flowering stage over here. But we do have some more black-eyed Susans. And this nasturtium down here is blooming. Alright. Come around here to the other potted plant section. It's a little hard to see because it's kind of high, but the morning glory has started to bloom, and it is quite nice. Let's see if I can come over here. Hopefully we're seeing something. Alright, and the ornamental pear plant is also getting those little black peppers on it. Alright, so I just wanted to briefly show you what it looks like. And today I also did want to talk about just the general maintenance of this garden. So I come back here every day and check on the garden. I make sure that everything's watered properly, but I also almost every day trim some of these plants, because if I don't, they're gonna get too out of control. For the first part of the season, I spend time telling myself I haven't put enough plants in, it's not looking great. And then the second half of the season, I realize, okay, I put too many plants in and now they're growing together and they're basically competing for space and sunlight and water and nutrients. So I have to go back in and make sure to trim some of the plants so they basically, a stronger plant doesn't dominate a weaker plant. So let me just show you what I mean by that. Okay, so almost all of these plants at some point or another I have had to trim or pinch back. A lot of times you'll hear people say pinch back, and all that means is they're just taking their fingers and basically pinching and breaking off a piece of the plant. I just choose to usually use scissors, my garden scissors, just so it has a nice clean cut. Some plants are too hard or tough to use your fingers to pinch them, but it's completely up to you if you want to use the garden scissors or you want to use your fingers. So like I said, most of the plants at some point or another I have had to trim at some point. So let me just show you the difference between a plant that you can and cannot pinch. So the basic, let's come over here. The best way for me to describe this is a plant that you can trim, and the reason why you would want to pinch or trim a plant is there's two things going on. When you do that, it promotes new growth and it usually makes the plant thicker and healthier. Another reason is maybe you're just simply deadheading the plant. So the flower has stopped blooming and you want to remove the dead flower, and so that act of removing that dead flower is another form of pinching and promoting new growth, forcing it or causing it to bloom more flowers. So how do you know which plants you can pinch or trim and which ones you can't? So for me, so I'm going to look at this elephant ear here. This is a plant that you cannot pinch. So the rule is, if the leaves or the stems all originate from a single source, so these leaves here all originate here at the bottom, and in between the bottom and the leaf at the top, there are no leaves in between, no other leaves. So let me just show you over here on the dahlias real quick what I'm trying to talk about. So for the dahlia, I'm just being a little rough here. This stem has a top and goes all the way down here to the bottom somewhere. But the difference between this plant, which you can pinch, and the elephant ear, which you can't, is that along the stem there are breaks where new leaves are coming out. So any plant that has those breaks is a plant that you can pinch. So the elephant ear, because there are no leaves in between the top and the bottom, you can't pinch this off. If you cut this back, you're just basically cutting the leaf off. It's the same thing for all of the hostas. All of the leaves have stems that originate from the base and then come out to the top here. So I do cut the hostas back, but not because I'm trying to encourage more growth. I just do it because they're covering up other plants, and I'm trying to make room for everybody. So this plant over here, it's another example. It has a top, has a long stem that originates in the bottom. So if I cut this off right here, a new one is not going to come in its place, and it's not going to sprout new leaves where I cut it. Hopefully that makes sense. Even this house plant here, it's the same idea. I think here you can kind of see the trend that I'm talking about. Original base of a plant, a stem with no leaves along the stem, one big, it doesn't have to be big, but a leaf at the top. So this means you can't trim this. You can trim it, but you can't expect a new growth from where you cut it. Let me show you some examples here of plants that you can trim or pinch, because I have basically been trimming these plants all season long. I haven't showed you this before, but it has been happening. So I have my scissors here, and what you want to do, so on this Tradescantia here, basically you can cut it anywhere above a leaf. So if I can cut it right here in between, or right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And now what's going to happen is, because I've cut this off, it's going to force the plant to create new growth around basically where these leaves are right here. I've already done this with the dahlias. Trying to find a good example here. So the dahlias, I'm not sure how I feel about them, to be honest. This is the first year I grew them. Maybe I'm just not growing them well, but they tend to get really tall and kind of fall over and aren't continuously blooming. But I haven't completely given up hope on them, but still undecided whether or not I will grow them next year or not. Anyway, so here's an example. As you can see right here, I clearly cut the top of this plant off. So this is trimming or pinching. Again, this is way too thick to pinch with your fingers, so I had to use the scissors. But what happens is, when you cut this off, you can already see right here at the base of these leaves, new leaves are starting to grow. And that actually creates a thicker, healthier looking plant. So that's one of the main reasons why I go around and trim the plants, because it creates these offshoots and creates that nice, thick, healthy looking plant. I have done that. Come down here with these coleus. These have all been pinched. Sorry, it's really kind of difficult to see what's going on down here. I've done the same thing where I cut the top off, and basically it promotes new growth out. So the pinching I also did with this bee balm a long time ago, because it was getting really tall and kind of falling over. Actually did it so long ago that you can barely find where I did it. So if you look right here, you can see that I cut that off, and then it forced it to shoot out two new, I'm going to call them branches, out the top here. So I could continue to do this, and it's just going to keep making a thicker, healthier plant. So in this example right here, I'm sorry, this plant is flopping all over the place. So if you look right here, there's little leaves that are already starting to come up. So if I would take my scissors and cut it off right here, it's going to do that. It's going to force it to branch out with two more new leaves. So I'm not going to do that because I do want this plant to bloom, and if I keep pinching it back, it's never going to bloom. So I did it early enough in the season that it should bloom by the end of the season, but if I went through again and did it, there's a good chance that it's not going to bloom. So just keep that in mind, not to pinch the plant back too late in the season, or you may not get it to flower again. So for these salvia, the reason why they are so thick and have so many flowers is because I kept pinching them back. So when I first bought it, there was a single stem with a flower on it, and just by continually breaking off the old flower, it forced it to shoot multiple, I'm going to call them branches out, and produce multiple flowers. So this plant is very easy. I'm trying to find one that I can pinch off. I'm also trying to find one that doesn't have 1,000 ants on it. Actually, let's just walk over here, and we're gonna sacrifice one. So these guys, it's real simple. These snap incredibly easy, and that is now going to force this plant, or these leaves right here, to grow into, hopefully, for two flowers to come out where that one was broken off. So you can do this pinching method with most of the plants. I kind of showed you the example of what you can't do it with. But some things, even like this lavender, it's the same idea. I could take these scissors and just come through here and just kind of cut them off instead of going through stem by stem and pinching them. I do it with the petunias. So sometimes they get really long and leggy and flop over, and if you just snap it off, it's going to promote new growth. It's going to keep the plant more compact, more tight, more fuller. You're not going to get that flopping. You're just going to have a healthier plant. But if it's a plant like this petunia, what I do is I don't go through and pinch them all back at the same time. Otherwise, you're not going to have any flowers because you've broken off all of the buds. I will maybe go through and just pinch back like a third of them, come back a week later, maybe pinch back another third. That way, the plant is always blooming and you're never left completely bare. Alright, it's the same thing. Let me just show you another example here with the lantana. This is very long, it's getting very leggy. I do want to cut this back, but here's the issue. It's in the in-between stage of blooming again, and so if I cut this back, these buds that have already set are not going to bloom. So at this point, my big question is, do I want a trimmed plant that's more compact, or do I want it to bloom again? So for this one, I think I'm gonna let it go, and I want it to bloom one more time, and then I'm gonna cut it back before I take it in for the winter. Alright, I think that just about covers the trimming and the pinching. I hope that that made sense. Here's another example of the lamb's ear, where you can see that I cut it right here, and then it shot out 2 new branches. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the garden tour today and learned something new. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe so I know I should make some more videos. Alright, I'll see you on the next tour.